fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty everyone, hello, it is Kirusho here. I just got done recording this part, and I am throwing this in at the beginning. This part got really dark towards the end of the video, so if you guys do not want to see content like that right now, I would recommend you click off. And this actually did somewhat turn out more like a horror movie than I thought. I'm somewhat proud of it, but at the same time I'm kind of on the fence about posting this, so that is why I'm putting this at the beginning of the video. Now then. Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here. And now, whenever we last left off with this series, we had Izuku Midoriya. Now, a brief rundown as to the last part since it has been a minute. Izuku Midoriya. He was injected with an experimental version of the Thing virus, which suppressed the Thing's ability to attack the immune system of an individual, causing a genetic mutation within Midoriya's body, which, i.e., would allow Midoriya to have the abilities of the Thing, such as body modification and adaptation-like abilities. Now, Midoriya tried using his time to master these abilities, or at least try and work with them. Now, he was taken in one day whenever somebody from the facility noticed this quirkless boy running around with seemingly abilities, and they wanted to know what those were. Now, Midoriya has been experimented on. And there we do currently have Midoriya, as he has been under observation for the last month and a half. Ever since they killed the animal Midoriya was connected to. Now, the animal itself, they did not know how to observe it. How with Midoriya, it seems a bit more strange. Many different people keep reporting this test subject is feral, and they believe that what they've done may have permanently caused this within Midoriya. However, Midoriya is still there within his own mind. In fact, he is keeping up this act or mirage, where he pretends to be feral. Now, Midoriya has been doing this act for about a week. He does vaguely remember the last few weeks, and he does at least understand the state he's in. Apparently, from what his dreams are telling him and what he's overhearing, the alien within his bloodstream, whatever is inside of his bloodstream, is not from Earth. It is some sort of bacteria, or something. And at this point, it's driving him absolutely insane. Now, they just called it the Thing within his blood. So that is what Midoriya named it, the Thing. They are not sure, and Midoriya himself is trying to plan an escape. And it has just been getting weirder and weirder. Midoriya has tried implementing many different plans, especially the plan he tried whenever he had his arm cut off and it mysteriously just reattached itself to his body. The excess blood that was being thrown around and was moving around. he tried to simply get it to leave the room. However, there were sealed vents, and made it a test. Midori even had his blood try to hide within a person's outfit, or within their clothing, and attach itself to their skin. However, the personnel that mainly do attend to Midoriya are disposable, i.e. prisoners. Every test that Midori has run on him, the people who were in the same room as him are immediately executed, as to prevent further spread, and the tools are put in an incinerator that these people use. Now, they believe that they have airtight and impenetrable security. However, this feral Midoriya has caused a loose of those restrictions. And there is today whenever somebody does actually walk into the room. And they are holding, well, what they would use at a pound to put a dog on. It's the thing that you can wrap around a dog's neck with a pole. I don't really remember what those things are called. There's a specific name for them. Basically, it allows you to control the dog and stop it from either running off or from trying to attack you, because you're able to at least keep it aimed forwards at a decent length. Now, they're able to catch Midoriya with one of these things, and with the help of these giant suits, they're able to lead Midoriya to a specific room. Midoriya feeling humiliated. However, with his transformed state, it's easier to move. If he was still in a normal human body, he would not have been able to walk the way he was. And there is today's test. They want to see what happens whenever you completely blast away Midoriya's torso. If Midoriya does need those vital components to live, then it will somewhat pose an interesting question. However, they also will be collecting his remains in case of death, and using them for further study. Hopefully, then getting another test subject, and trying to set their own eyes on a specific person, who will also be quirkless. Now, with that being said, we do have Midoriya, who, after having this test ran, let's say, that could possibly work. Let's say that this test is quite literally cutting him open and removing all of his organs, and seeing as to what would happen to him. Now, after Midoriya is put under, as they think, they would begin their own little thing, cutting Midoriya open and harvesting his organs. And it being surprising when Midoriya's pulse is still there, even after removing his own heart. The vessels within his blood, quite literally where his heart should be, just begin to string together into some small little ball, and basically create an artificial heart all on its own, along with what would appear to be small little dots appearing on Midoriya's throat. This being quite strange, as these little dots or little things do begin to sprout up somewhat like hairs. And if you were to put your hand over one, it actually is trying to suck in air. So, Midoriya's body is trying to adapt and get used to this new way of life. Now, with that being said, Midoriya's body is working overtime to try and accommodate for everything going on. Now, unaware to the scientist, their intended goal was fulfilled. However, with all the tampering they are doing to Midoriya's former human body, they are rapidly accelerating the rate of Midoriya's genes and his quote-unquote alien transformation. Now, the cells within Midoriya's body are rapidly replicating, and at this point, Midoriya is only about 20% human left, while the other 80% is mimicking human. Now, with that being said, I want to say that it at least has not gone through the brain-blood barrier, if anyone does know what that is. Now, with all that, Midoriya's organs are taken away, and then there is, whenever he does come to, him waking up on the operating table, and immediately just sitting up, as everyone in the room is alarmed to see this. Midoriya immediately looking to his left, as he throws his hand out towards the man. The man in scrubs caught off guard, as he takes a surgical scalpel and stabs it directly into Midoriya's neck. Midoriya not even flinching, staring at the man with dead eyes. Before the man just watched Midoriya as he brings up his hands and his fingers begin to elongate into claws, along with him hearing the cracking of Midoriya's bones in his hand as they get sharp. Midoriya running his two of his fingers through the man's eyes, as with the other two fingers he just begins to throw them underneath the man's skin and into his face. Now, as that does actually happen, Midoriya does stand on his feet and take on a somewhat human upright stance. As, whenever this does actually happen, he pushes the man against the wall, beginning to consume matter from his body to try and replenish his own missing matter. Now, as that does happen, the other man tries to get out of the room, screaming and begging to be let out, as this is not what he was supposed to do. He was just supposed to serve life in prison, and he will happily go there for the rest of his life. Just get him the fuck out of this room. Now, with that being said, the door to this room would actually open, and the man does try to run out. However, he is immediately incinerated by one of the men in giant suits, him trying to run around the room as he is on fire. Now, as that does actually happen, we do have the alien Midoriya, or the alienistic Midoriya, who at this point is beginning to consume more and more matter from the man, as he finally does at least gain a bit of a sentient thought. The men in the suits, they barely have any openings. However, they need to move, so the armor might be thinner in certain areas. Now, Midoriya is rapidly converting the man's body into mass to use. And he is remembering what he used to fight Bakugo so long ago. The moment that Bakugo pops into his head, he does somewhat freeze, while still continuing the process. Now, the man walks up behind Midoriya, as there you do have his back, covered in scales and the tail he has sprouted, along with the way he does actually look whenever he does turn his head to look directly at the man. That feline look in his eyes. Hard to believe that this used to be a normal human child. The man bringing up his finger as he does go to try and spray Midoriya with flames. Now, the moment that does actually happen, there is what happens as soon as those flames do begin to somewhat sprout. Midoriya turned his hand in that direction and immediately just went flying off, and shot directly onto the man's finger, as his hand closed and the fires began to try and spray. However, all that happened was the thing sprayed back directly into the faceplate of the man, as Midoriya's fingers did begin to somewhat move together, or try and create a bowl shape to spray the flame back at the man, catching the other guard off guard, as Midoriya would stand back up. His face, neck, torso, and arms covered in bone, as Midoriya just looks at the man. Now, as soon as this does actually happen, Midoriya would walk over. The other man trying to spray at Midoriya, as Midoriya would morph his legs and tail into a different shape, as he would rapidly begin to try and move around the room. Now, Midoriya would run by the operating table, grabbing another scalpel, as he would put it behind his back and into his tail, as he does actually grab a plate and throw it directly at the man. As soon as this actually happens, the man does throw up his hands to try and guard, and he then does try and bring up both of his hands to try and spray. Midoriya throwing the scalpel, and directly cutting the man, as it would fly in and actually smash into the small gap where his eyes can look out at. Now, the man has been infected by Midoriya. Now, scientists are caught off guard, as the man does somewhat begin to scream, clearly indicating a wound on his face. So, this would be cause for termination. As the other man, Midoriya actually just walk over, having his fingers elongate as he would stick them within the suit, absorbing more and more minerals from people's bodies, as they would try and lock down the base. Now, Midoriya, he would quite simply just do one thing. As soon as he is able to get out of the room, absorbing the information from these people's minds, he knows everything about the base, how long it's been, and exactly where he needs to go to escape. Now, with all that being said, Midoriya, he doesn't intend to escape right now. In fact, he is out for blood, as he does actually walk into a hallway, and there are many armed guards there, all informing Midoriya to simply just stand down. 001 stand down or you will be terminated. All of them trying to fire bullets and flames into Midoriya. Now, they do try and pierce through Midoriya's armor. However, he is using the bones of about 4 different people to create this thick skeletal structure. Now, he also just rushes them all. And he does slash directly into one of these metal plates. He didn't get very deep into it. However, through a constant barrage of relentless attacks and feral slashing, he does eventually cut into it and stab the man directly in his chest. Now, Midoriya would then actually grab the suit on the arm and dismantle the man's arm inside of it, as he does take over the man's arm and use his nervous system to try and fire flames at his allies. Now, everyone's quite horrified at what they're seeing. Midoriya is just growing in mass and growing in size, and that is what alarms them the most, as what would happen when Midoriya gains enough mass would frighten everybody. Something begins to appear on the back of Midoriya's head, and it is only whenever an arm pops out of his back does everyone get quite surprised. Before, another arm does appear as well, as it quite simply just brings its hands up to where Midoriya's back, well, the back of Midoriya's back is, as it begins to try and separate from Midoriya. Now, it would be quite alarming, this thing hitting the ground and trying to quickly assemble a skeletal structure itself. As it would get onto its feet, the monster it has turned into, it has replicated itself. Midoriya looking at this other version of himself, and feeling himself in 2 places at once, as they try to change the security alert, but Midoriya quickly gets through security, ripping out power lines and causing the base to completely malfunction. Them not being able to send a broadcast to their bosses or employers about the current state of affairs. Now, the original Midoriya would leave the base, him disguising himself as somebody from security and walking away. Now, as this does actually happen, Midoriya, he would sneak out into the public, as he would walk through the door and go through all the security procedures to get out. Now, after he does get through, he quite simply just does one thing. Whenever he gets out, he goes to the nearest rooftop. And after undisguising himself, he just looks up at the moonlight and takes a breath of fresh air, taking a deep breath in before howling at the moon. Now, with that, we do have back in the base, where Midoriya does also lie. These replicas of Midoriya also howling for no reason. And a researcher noting it down that Midoriya seems to have a pack mentality. Now, this is the last thing that is written down, as we do have the lead researcher, a woman in her early 30s, who has been making leaps and bounds in this project. She is the doctor that was able to approve Midoriya's capture. And Midoriya knows it, as she is cornered within a closet. And she's actually just sitting there in the corner with her hands on her mouth, as there is shadows moving outside the door, underneath it, along with hearing a man scream, as you can clearly hear the worst thing you can ever imagine. It sounds like a crunching sound. Along with that, it gets worse. Whenever claws come through the door, covered and soaked in blood, before they just quite simply get pulled back. Now, as if that can't be bad enough, there is another replication going on outside, as the door does open, and the doctor is horrified at what she would see. This horrible monster. It looks like it has, well, what could you even describe it as? It looks like it has jagged teeth, each 1 inch long, and somewhat like a sea animal. And then there's its face, completely white in structure and made of bone, along with the eyes, front facing like a predatory animal, and the way the ears are. Not much physical changes. However, they do seem to be more sideways, along with what might be an additional sensory organ on Midoriya's head, it being somewhat unidentifiable. However, it could be assumed that it is also sonar. Now, the doctor is writing these all down, as Midoriya would step into the room. Now, the doctor would be horrified, closing her eyes in her final moments. However, she would open them after a second or two, watching as this monster in front of her begins to change and revert. As Midoriya would actually grab the desk and grab the shelf right there. Her watching as she can hear Midoriya's skeletal structure reform into somewhat humanoid. As there he does stand in the room, as he's panting heavily. It's you bastards. What? 001? You're sentient? 001? After everything you bastards have done to me, the least you could do is use my actual name. Midoriya bending down in front of her, and burning his finger out. her watching as it does slowly begin to morph back into a bony claw. Midoriya telling her as she does actually lean further and further back into a wall, as Midoriya just brings his finger up onto her cheek, saying that she is a bitch. What are you talking about? Your experiment. Is this what it was? Cut me up and turn me into this. Now what am I going to do? Listen, there's still time. You have not gotten out. We can make things right. Our research is for the betterment of humanity. Yeah. That's funny, Doc. Last time I checked, the betterment of humanity didn't involve cutting up a 14-year-old boy on a table and murdering prisoners. Especially Midoriya saying two of the men's names, along with the security guards. Now, the doctor is quite alarmed, as Midoriya would also inform the doctor that he has actually breached containment. What she is currently looking at is a replica. Apparently he is a single cellular organism. How would she write that down? Now, the doctor is frightened, as she asks exactly how many are outside that room, one popping its head in, and reassuring her fears that they are real. Midoriya just holding up about 10 fingers, before, on each hand, 10 more fingers do appear. Midoriya is saying that there's so many of him down here at this point that he doesn't even know. Well, I'll have you know then, before you can breach, you are not allowed out of here. Besides, we've already triggered alarms. This place will be up in flames before we know it. You don't understand. The original is not here. What? That's not possible. Oh yes, I assure you. He's gone now. It's just us down here, Doc, Midoriya says, as he actually does bring his hand over her mouth, telling her that he's going to give her a little bit of a choice, as he would sink his fingers underneath her skin, her screaming out in pain as Midoriya would actually just rip his hand backwards, as she's scared, looking down at her mouth and feeling something, along with actually bringing her hands up to her cheek, where there are no wounds and no blood. What did you just... Oh, doctor, I gave you a choice. I'm giving you one now. You can either turn into me, join me, and live, or, Midoriya says, tossing down a bottle of pills, saying spend her last remaining minutes in this disgusting world, human. Now, the choice is quite simple. She's already not making it out of here alive. But, as she would put it, he's a disgusting monster now. And she's nothing more than a human, turning into one. So here is a bottle full of pills. He doesn't know what they are. Most likely they are lethal, however, if you take too many. So, his choice is simple. What is she going to choose? Now, Midoriya would then get up, standing on his feet and walking out the door. As, a few minutes later, the entire facility is up in flames. And, underneath the building, this place would quietly burn. Midoriya feeling the death of all these replicas. However, this time it does not faze him. He just feels the same thing. Never-ending warmth. And he feels better now. After everything that's happened, he is free. And he can finally get out of here. So, where is our monster going to go now? And exactly how long was he underneath that place? Within this facility? hidden underneath the very hometown he has known all of his life.